Hello guys, ghouls and gals, and welcome to the archives. I'm your host, Nick Nightmare, and today we'll be delving into the subgenre of horror that I currently have very complicated feelings towards. Today, we will be covering Mascot horror, some of the strengths and even some of the unfortunate faults of this category. These are my opinions, my views, and my feelings, and I encourage you to enjoy my randomly organized thoughts and feelings while maintaining your own sense of likes and dislikes that may not align with mine. But first, what is Mascot horror? Mascot horror is the subcategory of horror that utilizes the uncanny horror of child mascot characters, twisting them into terrifying monsters. The most famous example of this is Five Nights at Freddy's, a horror series I have covered on this channel in the past, and the game that popularized the mascot horror subgenre. This game utilizes cute mascot animatronic characters, which, on their own, do not look threatening in the slightest. However, when these characters begin to move at night, their soulless stare begins to form a new and terrifying feeling in the depths of your unconscious. Now, am I going to claim that these characters are the most terrifying thing known to man? No, and they are not meant to be. While later games will twist these characters to be more and more mangled and terrifying, the original characters were made with one very important aspect in mind. These animatronics were made for children. A child's pizzeria, like that of Chuck E. Cheese. This principle is one of the most important when appraising mascot horror. Another series that demonstrates this essential principle is Bendy and the Ink Machine. I will cover Bendy and the Ink Machine in another episode, but for a brief synopsis, this game series takes place in an animation studio left to rot. Bendy is a cutesy little devil made for the rubber hose animation style popular in the 20s. His large smile and gloved hands do not scream horror. They aren't meant to. However, as you come across more and more of these cardboard cutouts in the decaying animation studio, they begin to make one feel uneasy. Attempts to destroy them do nothing. They seem to move on their own, and this little devil seems to have escaped the animation reels. I would argue that the main character design, at least at the beginning of these games, are meant to put one in a state of comfort, and are easily one of the biggest assets to the strength of the mascot horror subgenre. These smiling animatronics give you the feeling of a fun pizzeria such as Chuck E. Cheese, and the rubber hose style of Bendy reminds one of Saturday morning cartoons. This childhood nostalgia mixed with a dark, creepy atmosphere creates a sudden feeling of unease and discomfort for the player. Cute little animatronics are making their way through a dark and dilapidated hallway coming towards you. You notice their blank eyes and what suddenly appears to be an evil smile, staring, never blinking, with only you in their sights. That cutesy little Sunday morning cartoon appears to have come to life and escaped the screen, ambling towards you in a steady, rhythmic manner that you know in your soul to be a menacing threat. These conflicting styles are the main strength of the mascot horror subgenre. Bendy and FNAF are both extremely strong examples of how the mascot horror subgenre can be used to make something truly great. Unfortunately, the mascot horror subgenre is also one that over the years has been overplayed, had to be quickly produced to keep up with sudden demand, and lost some of its strengths in an attempt to capitalize on the genre. FNAF, while still a solid series, has had issues with keeping that horror feeling with releases such as Security Breach. While still having creepy implications, their quick and fluid movements made them lose the sense of being a childhood animatronic. Instead, they felt almost lifelike, as if someone instead of something was vying for your undying attention. Other games, such as Baldi's Basics, seem to mark the slow death of the subgenre. Although a constant looming threat, the normalcy of a school hallway, albeit uneasy for many in their formative years, the random humor riddled with the poor comedic attempts, and the imminent threat of a ruler there is no fear, no dread, no need to escape. At least, not in terror. Mascot horror seemed to start emphasizing the mascot part of its title, rather than the horror. Another unfortunate side effect of the mascot horror subgenre is embedded in what gives the horror genre its main strength. Because of the disarming style of the mascots found in the mascot horror subgenre, it's known for having a very large child audience. Five Nights at Freddy's under 13 audience grew so rapidly and so large, the creator felt compelled to curb some of its darker content. And who can blame him? Without a paying audience, your heart's work will eventually live only as a fond and distant memory. Books, plushies, toys, all geared towards a younger crowd than was originally intended. While frustrating to the generation that has followed the FNAF series since its inception, without these fans and modifications, we would not likely have the content we have today. However, the game that, in my opinion, marks the brutal, painful, and untimely death of the Mascot horror subgenre is one known as Garten of Banban. This game is everything wrong with Mascot horror wrapped into a muddled little bow. Now, you can have your own opinion on this game. I personally have little cousins that love this game, and I wish I could love it with them, but I can't. This game is bad. The most enjoyment I derived from the recording of this game was me and my friends knocking on it. Instead of just claiming that the game is just bad, let me break it down to what issues I have with the game. Let's start with one of my personal favorites, character design. While yes, I do praise character designs that are meant to put one at a state of ease, the character designs in this game aren't even trying. Banban and his friends are so simple that the most distinct features of each of them are the color. The designs look as if they were drawn in 5 minutes in Microsoft Paint by someone's non-dominant hand while blindfolded and possibly intoxicated. The most interesting character design is a senseless-looking pink bird. This pink bird, also known as the Opila bird, is the only real antagonist you will be finding throughout the first chapter, with Jumbo Josh, who appears in the final few moments of the chapter. My next issue with the game is its setting. As mentioned before, settings are quintessential to the horror genre. Not many people are afraid of an open field, but fill that field with patchy weeds, a few dead trees, ill-kept tombstones, a full moon, and dense patchy fog, and now you have gone from the Great Plains to a haunted cemetery. In Banban, we are supposed to believe that this area we've been put in was previously a kindergarten classroom. I'm sorry, but there is no universe where this vacant hole is a kindergarten. It has a large and empty feeling, no attempts to make the view feel as if anyone has ever been present, let alone worked here. It feels as if this building just appeared out of nowhere, and our main protagonist just happened to wander inside. I mean, come on. There's a giant pit into the void, and we're supposed to believe that children used to play in this area? Suspension of disbelief only gets one so far. Now, before anyone says it, yes, I know that Bendy, one of the games I used as a positive example of this subgenre, also has a large, unbelievable space. But it doesn't start with this. Chapter 1, while being rather large, is also very tight and spread out. Separate spaces feel like different animation desks. Chapter 1 makes an attempt to be a believable office space. Garten of Banban doesn't even do the bare minimum when it comes to that. I can't help but feel as if this game was made with the intention of selling merchandise, a theory that is unfortunately supported by the fact that on the starting menu of the game, there is a link to their merch store. It feels as though these games are being pumped out to capitalize on the Mascot horror genre, while it can. If you review the comments of each of these games, many talk about how they accomplished the game in under 2 hours, which, for those of you who don't know, the Steam store has a policy that any game you have less than 2 hours of playtime in, you may refund. The game developers can cry about this on Twitter all that they want, but at the end of the day, if you make a game that has less than 2 hours of content, it does not need to be locked behind a paywall. I hold the hope that these games are a passion project gone wrong, as the game developers suggest. instead of the seemingly quick cash grab attempt it comes off as. That being said, Mascot horror is still a very important subgenre to me for a very specific reason. And it's one that is not necessarily uncommon, but one that is usually overshadowed by those using this point as a negative. The subgenre is generally catered towards a younger demographic. Now, I can already hear some of you saying out there, "Oh, you just complained about a horror game feeling too child-centered. Doesn't this completely go against that point?" And while yes, I do believe that catering too much to a younger demographic is not a good thing per se, I do believe that it has its positives. As some of you might have put together already, I am a big fan of horror. As of making this video, I've only made videos regarding both an online horror game that I love and my favorite horror game franchise ever, which just so happens to be a Mascot horror game. However, most of my family is not a fan of the horror genre. While there are some in my family who somewhat like horror, the majority of them are not fans, so while they are fine with me following my own passions, they do not participate. However, as I have already mentioned, I have younger cousins, as well as a younger sibling who I am very close with, so much so I almost had him as the voice of Evan Afton in my FNAF video. They have been introduced to the horror genre in the same way that I was, Mascot horror. It is a subgenre that is very important to me because it is a start for many young horror enthusiasts like me. However, we do need to accept the fact that Mascot horror must have balance. That is where most of the games in this genre struggle. The games can be accessible to a younger audience, but they must still be able to catch that older audience too. That is where most Mascot horror unfortunately fails. That is why games such as Garten of Banban feel so lifeless. They cater too much to one type of demographic, and it's usually the younger demographic. Now, I unfortunately must end this video here. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I will be back again soon with some more videos like this, as well as some other ideas I've been brewing up. I enjoyed the lore videos that I started making this channel with, but I look forward to presenting you all who are joining me on this journey with more content that I enjoy. To those of you who have already joined me in the archives, I thank you. Our numbers are small, but knowing that there are any of you out there who support me on this journey means the world. And to those of you who have yet to join me, I hope you do consider. I'd be overjoyed to have you. And once again to all of you, please feel free to like the video and leave a comment. I'd love to hear about your favorite games in the Mascot horror subgenre. I hope to see you all in the archives again soon. Goodbye for now.